Hello everyone, welcome to Elemental Emotions by Crystal Davis. I'm Summer Dawn. I'm the founder and director of In Full Color, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much to Hudson County Community College and Dineen Hall Gallery and Michelle Vitale for creating this space for us, having us be in residence here February and March. We've already created so much amazing art with the community here, and I'm excited to see more work today. From artists in Jersey City, as well as our amazing featured artist, Crystal Davis. You may know Crystal as an In Full Color alumna, and also as the co-founder of Open Road Poetry, which is celebrating its second anniversary. She is coming out with her first book, and I'm super excited to see it. She's also a visual artist, painter, writer, poet, and marketing extraordinaire, a woman of many talents. Please welcome my good friend, Crystal Davis.
Thank you, Summer. And thank you to Open Road Poetry for just building this out and being a part of the IFC just foreground. And also thank you to HCCC. I'm really proud and excited to be here today. I want to say thank you to our guests who are here, and thank you to Richard Riles for being here as well. And a big shout out to our Facebook world. Thank you for watching, if you are watching via live stream. And of course, thank you to our curator and our host, Rescue Poetics. I couldn't have done this without you. So I wanted to say, one more thing about this whole experience. It's been about 2 years since I started working on Elemental Emotions. At first, when I started, I had no idea what it was going to be. I just thought to myself, I want to start creating a lot of different poetry and just put it together. And then at some point, when I started working on this collection of work, I realized it wouldn't be a whole if I didn't put my artwork into it, because that's really the core of who I am. I'm both a visual artist, as Summer said, and a poet and a writer. So I wanted to be able to combine all of these different elements, and here we go with Elemental Emotions. So as part of today's event, I'll be reading a couple excerpts from each of the chapters from the book. The entire book consists of 7 chapters, and I follow through the 7 chakras. So we start off in the thought chakra and we work our way through. And this book is really, it's my own interpretation, and it collects all my experiences as I was going through my spiritual journey. And it never stops, you're always learning. And as I was diving into different theologies and different cultures and learning more about them, I was finding that there were parts of their spiritualities that were connecting with me. And a lot of the times when I was working on the pieces from this book, in some aspects I felt as if I was channeling, and it's never been the same. So here we go. I'm gonna start off with the first chapter of the book, and I'll give you a little sneak peek for each one. So our first chapter for Elemental Emotion is thought. And I thought it was very important that I start it in this way, because as the readers jump and dive into the book, I want them to feel as if they might find thoughts of enlightenment. They may find things that are relatable in my pieces that are also part of their lives in some way. So I'm going to actually start off with a piece that many of you may have heard before, and this is called Athena. And it does have a matching illustration, which you will see when the book is published, and it's called Half of Athenian Breast, and Rescue Poetics is the owner of that piece. So you'll see it soon. Athena. The spear left her hands as it flew across the sky, swift lightning lifted from her palms. Sparks bounced along concrete. She stood firm in her stance after shaking down a dark soul. Heavy and breathy, her heart raced. The point of her spear emitted light as it pierced the demon's breast. Shutting her eyes of steel gray, in her silence, she recollected moments prior to success, planted like Nike, victorious. Her chest lifted, collarbone sturdy, shoulders raised. Athena wore the sash of Aegeus, flush against her flesh. The serpent queen's severed head embellished the gold surface, carved scales shimmering. She'd soon return to her temple and throne, finding demons where they would fending demons and darkness kept from her home. The great Athena, champion of heroes, woman warrior, vowed to protect the land before her. Before the mighty Athena could rest her weary eyes, she bowed her head in mourning, remembering, praying for those who surrendered. She dried her tears once more and dried them again. Mother, wisdom, strength, justice, warfare, craft, inspiration. She removed her helmet and armor to rest her heavy head. Home would restore her. Home had implored her. The walls of the divine hall glistened from golden sunset hour. Through mended stained glass windows, she stopped and stepped to her throne. Marbled with colorful inks and warmed by the heartbeat hearth fire. Peace and prosperity, villagers tossed rice in celebration. Word of her return flew through the leaves of the olive tree, ruffling through the winds of her lungs. Those who sought her protection called upon her strength and her courage and requested wisdom and guidance. Many showered her in sweet-smelling flowers and myrrh. Her lips kissed with honey and wine. Her skin glistened in silvers and golds with hues of blue. And that's it for Athena. I appreciate you guys so much. So I'm gonna do my next piece, which is also from the Thought chapter. And this is, I think this was, I started working on this piece back in 2020, and I was kind of in a dark place when it came to my business, and I really just wanted to make sure that as I growed as an entrepreneur, I wanted people to understand and take me seriously, that like the work that I do, the writing that I do, like this takes time, this takes blood, sweat, and tears, and that it's not just a work of art once it's done, whether it's for like a client or a project or whatever it may be, that everybody has their own skill that they're good at and they deserve to be paid for it. Wordsmithing. I sweat into my work. My skills sharpened at the grindstone, water splashed onto steel, hearth fire heat sparks at the wheel. I've bled into my work. I've sliced my fingers, testing each blade. Keyboard, pen, paintbrush, quill, lush with ink, one by one. As my skin calloused and peeled, my blood wrote the scar of age, each lesson, each mistake reflected from my experiences. Completing each quill, pressed scrolls unraveled, dragon's blood to seal incantations. My skill isn't an unpaid one. You'll see and understand. Time is invaluable. I express the significance in my sincerity. Written words are my livelihood. Requested service, delivered goods, pay me what is due. The weaponry is gilded, the tools foolproof, grindstone, foot to pedal, creating this fantasy. And finally, wordsmithing. Fingers taking turns, keyboard warrior, white mage, storyteller, black mage, shaper of worlds, summoner of long form. Once a crystal shattered, the new heroes rewriting history. Won't let that light become dim. So this piece is one of my favorites because of the fact that it kind of ties into my love for Final Fantasy. So people who are gamers, who are fans of Final Fantasy, just know that that last verse is for you. And thank you. And the next one that I'm going to jump into, this was from a project that I did alongside with Summer and a couple other poets from the Jersey City area. We worked together with Walk By and Catalina Arangran. And I was like, one of her exhibitions that was coming up was called Nature Walk. And it was supposed to give everybody the experiences that when they went through the park, they would be able to see like amazing artwork. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I'm more on the virtual side. So what if I created a PowerPoint that could showcase poetry, but also the voices of other poets that have inspired me through the past couple of years. So this piece is a haiku, and this goes to attest that, writing, you can do writing in many different forms, and sometimes it could be just as strong with 7 5-7, or it can be just as strong if you write an entire paragraph and a story with it. And this piece is called Titanium Flowers. It's a haiku. Blacksmith sat with her, gentle flowers, resistant and strong. So this piece, I wanted it to kind of be at the core of balancing all the other poems that I had written in the book, because a lot of them are very heavy and they just tackle a bunch of different periods in my life. And Titanium Flowers is supposed to represent the strength, but also the delicacy of flowers. And I think that when you envision it, it's a beautiful thing, because you can't, like, if you've ever seen when people work or they do metalwork and they're making jewelry, you never think of like how thin they can make a certain object or a certain metal. So I thought to myself, I'm like, what if I made something in my mind? And I used titanium, which is a very strong metal, and then you use flowers, which is, it can be very gentle and very weak. And next I'm going to dip you guys into the second chapter of the book, and this is called Light. And when the book is finally published, you'll be able to see the adjoining illustration to this chapter, which is called Spirit. So I'll start off Spirit by reading 2 tanka pieces. So it's a form of Japanese poetry. And the first one is Familiars, the Raven. And this is a diptych piece. Strong in her presence, her iridescence reflects who I really am, the feline's companion. Her glossed plumage embraces me. Familiars, the feline. Gallant, protector, a spirit guided through darkness. Close friends with the ferryman. She tells me of travels, the raven's companion. So these 2, when I started working on the book, I kind of wanted to have, in my own way, I wanted to represent like what I thought were my spirit animals, which ever since I was a kid, it was a raven, and cats have been through my life from as much as like little as I can remember. I think the first cat that I had, it was actually a stuffed animal. And then it was ironic because the stuffed animal was a black and white tuxedo cat, and later on down the line I ended up having a cat, which was Jack Jack, and he was my little tuxedo baby, and now I have my little baby Alpha. So these tuxedos, they follow me everywhere. Now, this is back in the Light chapter, and some of you have heard this. This piece was actually, I believe it was published by Alien Buddha magazine, and I really want to read this piece because Megasud is here, so it's one of my favorite ones. This is called Buddha. The white elephant stepped through pools of lily pads, and the lotuses swam closer to greet him. He showered himself joyfully in water that shimmered gold. He sat deep in thought. He felt the wind touch his skin, the sun warm on his face, the earth beneath him. The morning dew kissed his toes. Leaves hung low from the Bodhi tree as if to say hello. Dhyani. He meditated atop the grass, and the silence surrounded him. He became the roots of the tree, traveled throughout its many memories, his hands at rest in his lap. One palm carried the other, his thumbs pressed gently together. Vitarka. Compassion within reasoning, I tuned into his transmission of ancient knowledge. Bhumisparsa. His left hand sat upward in his lap while he called upon earth. The lesson learned, transformation, changing rage into wisdom. Abhaya. With his hands pointed upward, he reassured me of the blessing. Bhagyarthi. The 4 corners surrounded him, surrounded me, protected him, protected me. Anjali. With fingers pointed upward, he speaks to me from the heart. Samsara.
Very nice. When did we start?
Huh?
We started at 2:10, right?
Yeah, it's 2:10.
Yeah, even 15 minutes, but
Okay.
it's up to you.
Cool.
Want to read another page or you want to?
I think I'll pull us through a couple chapters in the book. We're now on chapter 3. And remember, there's so much more where this came from. These are just like little bits and pieces, so I hope it's enough to pull you in for when the book finally does come out.
Ooh.
Chapter 3 is Ether. I think from chapter 3, I'm going to do, oh yeah, this is a juicy chapter. Mouth. From my mouth, I have spoken truth. I was given the gift of storytelling, planted firm in the palm. I only played my role for the first half of my life. And so I stepped from the stage, discarded the purse which barred me, removed my costume, destroyed my face. A mask we're all subjugated to wear, so our lords and ladies are happy. Would-be, I was a would-be artist, I was a would-be writer, nurse, mother, sister, muse, lover, brother, other, storming across the stage in all forms of my past. Echoing footsteps, each and every after the next, until I was buried. The word spelled, until I had evolved. The word written, until I was born. The word spoken. I told this story again and again, the next time with less fear and more nerve, until I became.
Very nice.
And this one I've got to read because I'm hoping that my ancestors are with me, and this was like a big core of the book. So, ancestors. My ancestor was tall, intelligent, a chemist, apothecary filled with earth's gifts, oils, tinctures, dyes, stone-fashioned amulets, carrying a scarab at your side. My ancestor was young, a twin, woman warrior. She was a brazen spiritual chieftain. She and her husband built the foundation of our lineage. In ceremonial clothing, my family would gather to commemorate the native marriage in its honor. My ancestors were bound in chains. My ancestors were their landlord's very last name, building railroad tracks and selling tea and grain. Together, my ancestors danced around open flames and chanted as they asked for rain. The moon rose high above them. The stars were guiding lights. The woodwinds called for more movement, and they danced to summon the spirits to protect them. Fast forward to the year 1920, my ancestors gave birth to a badass nanny with a great big attitude. She had spunk, she had style, she could teach you a thing or two. Carrot cake, you'll never taste the same flavor twice. Frank Sinatra and Eartha Kitt are symbolic of her power. My ancestors gifted us with Larry. He was a man with a golden thumb, playing roulette, rolling dice across green felt, fives and tens of thousands of dollars right before your eyes. 2 daughters and 2 sons creating a legacy for this golden one, writing the unfinished story of his life. Energetically present, leaving behind traces of effervescent light. We've connected through divination, and despite everything and being divided by more than land and sea, I still hear you. You still hear me. Except this time, your energies run free and rampant through me, guiding me to the next chapter.
Very nice.
Okay, yeah, I can't pass up on this one. All right, and this is in honor of all the poets that have ever been a part of my life, who have influenced my work and the words that they say. In dedication to Summer and Mega and Rashad Wright and Rescue Poetics and John Dragonis, if by any chance you're watching because you helped kind of like jumpstart need and want to just get out there and do poetry. Inspirations. Words whistle through my fingers like breezes across treetops, along branches, through waltz leaves of grass with Dr. Westman. And multiplied, colorful quills that painted words like Frida Kahlo's eyelashes as I learned of vertigo with Anne Wallace. Balancing the scales of nostalgic pleasure and prescribed pain, we wound down Dolly's melting clocks, each word dripping down Neruda's perspiring glass. We listened to Dave's Ho'apo'apono serenade. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. Words wind out of me like Trogonis's roads and bridges, gritty, raw, train tracks in subway systems with butter roll type syllables. My words remember standing at bus stops with John C. Massett. A bronze statue of La Nancy stands mightily beneath Lucky Pigeon Shit, La Boriqueña, running marathons over obstacles and paragraphs and performance art. I sat there, waiting to forget. Waiting to forget the way that your words washed over me like rosemary and Florida water across hardwood floors that had that wax on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi style shine. My eyes glazed before they shuddered, Jushin and fresh donuts, sweet visions encased behind pastry glass. I thought of the weight of my words. I measured their strength. Atlas weighed upon my shoulders. Some made me light, some heavy. Emotions rumbled deep within my belly. Rescue appeared mid-sentence, just long enough to gain the flow and breadth of your breadcrumb memories along the path less taken. I imagine you here with me. Your words surround my nostrils, a savory fragrance, an abstract cacophony of culinary elegance, as you sift your words over my earlobes like garlic powder maracas. Onion cymbals and adobo snares amongst cheese, maybe, within El Barrio. You didn't stop at basil or sun-dried tomatoes before giving the cooking rhythm a bit of your own beat. I watched you write your recipe on parchment paper as your finger broke apart thin ramen noodles boiling over stovetop. You poured glasses of Romeo's whiskey. The fire of your human soul burns brightly as we stoke the flames. Duana breathes light into the palms of our empty hands. She spits sparks and embers that sizzle like the sound of Orisha whispers, showering us in Oshun's ocean and sea foam. Catalina creates soft-covered memories of light bulbs and stars and flowers and Titus as she continues to inspire me. I read the sadness you collected along the way. Mega spoke ripples as she skipped stones across silent lakes, water undulating under lily pads and fallen tree trunks as her work crossed beyond county and country and ozone. Trout jumping over waterfall, moving forward swiftly, like weeds fill sidewalk cracks. I watched as Rachel personified the loss of human body parts. I chuckled and said, hey, maybe one day I could write that way. Maybe one day I won't be so nervous and remember my own lines. I blame it on my short-term memory, but I remember what you did to me 5 years ago. Maybe it's a Cancerian thing. My memory skips beats like VHS cassettes gone straight to DVD, bouncing from corner to corner after I felt defeat on Channel 3. I read better when things are on paper. Queen waded through water, reassuring my confidence in written word. Anxiety feels like stage fright, like I might not measure up, like I might not be enough. Enough! Enough to fill this glass of sugar, enough to fill this jar, enough to sweeten the atmosphere, to drip molasses like spilled ink over quilled paper. And just like that, summer left me with a jar of ice. I really couldn't remember a day where I didn't recollect your poetic grandeur. Ariel blends vocal movements and rhythm, infectious excitement carries over coffee tables, bookshelves with Lisa Colorado, and lessons on herbs and colors. Sandy and Clay clutch it with their hands. The story you tell was not a walk in the park. You reveal bruises and darkness handed forward on a piece of your heart. Jenna removes fear itself. Exhilarating joy as you helped to prepare me for this journey. I watched as you became free. Bubbles floating across the sky of cotton and golden blush. My forehead is blessed. I appreciate knowing that I have found my way into your orbit as you have helped propel me to further understanding the plan for my cosmic purpose. Thank you. How am I doing on time?
Whenever you want. Do you want to do questions and then open mic, or do you want to do open mic and then questions?
I think open mic and questions.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's up to you.
Okay.
It's 2:30.
Okay.
You're the boss.
All right, I'm the boss. Thank you. All right, so we just made it to chapter 4. This is the air chapter. And I think
Air, whoop whoop.
this chapter is very sexy. And I like it a lot.
I think the chip just.
So I'm actually going to start off with, I think I'll just do one piece from the air chapter. This is Aphrodite. She appears as herself through me. I am a manifestation asking for her guidance and her presence. She shows me unconditional love. There was no clandestine world I needed to recede to in order to find her. She communicated clear and well through light and dark, teaching me every step of the way. To cherish each piece of me that had been shaped over time. To love my face and my mouth and my shoulders and my fingers and my breast. To embrace my stomach and my legs and the soles of my feet. Because through me, she walks, she speaks, she passes the torch. So I would find the love in myself. So I could exchange the power of this love with someone else. Oh, this is a good one. So, you know, we all have heartbreak stories, and I like to write heartbreak poems after heartbreak. So this one is called Heartless. This is dedicated to one of my exes, and I love it so much because of how cruel in some aspects it came out, but how beautiful it came out at the same time. Heartless. One who is entranced by the dance of love. Although fleeting, the feeling is freeing, leaving my heart beating in a pink war cry for more. Tires screeching when I find myself at the edge of the bed waiting for the pain to subside. I grabbed my chest in a cringing manner, seldom releasing breaths. As I felt my skin cling to me, my heart felt ready to explode when I realized we slept beds apart. Apart by walkways, side streets, stop signs, people staring in pity. I woke up like that for many nights, grabbing my chest as it would congest and tighten. I wondered if you ever noticed. I grew tired of hiding my face, feeling this would be the last time when I knew very well it wasn't. I could pretend I wasn't hurting once I realized I was confined by my own silence. I needed to be free. I needed to be quiet, to breathe in the elongated stillness surrounding us like mackerel, in hordes, in schools, gasping for air, on dew-covered pavement. There was no grass to catch their fall this time around, sore on their sides, bleeding through their scratches, mirrored on concrete, like slugs. Our love would melt away from the salt poured upon us. one thing that I'll actually let you guys in on, and I'm so honored that you're all here and listening today. So for each of the chapters, the final poem for each chapter leads into the following chapter, so it kind of gives like a little tad bit. The last verse carries the name of the element in the poem.
Oh.
So this piece is Saint Expedite, and at the end of this piece, we mention fire, and then it brings us in immediately into the fire chapter. Saint Expedite. His birthday is actually coming up. So this is, for those of you who don't know, he is in some aspects a loa that people create altars for when they are in need of emergency money, or if they want things to happen fast. And when I started working on this book, this was like one of the first pieces that came out of my head because I was working with him a lot, and he brought a lot of things into my life. So here we go. Saint Expedite. For his birthday, I celebrate him, thanking him for the joys that he brings. Cloak of red hung over his shoulders. He stood vivid in front of me to help open the road, loving in his way, quick in return, always hungry for butter cake and thirsty for water. Hodi. I bring roses to show appreciation. I spread his name with love and affection through means of fire. And we jump into the fire chapter. So I actually, thanks to InfoColor, I was able to read at New Jersey City University this past week for Women's History Month with the Women's Center. And I was able to read my group of triptych poems from the fire chapter. And these poems, in some aspect, you know, I feel like we're all in some way, like we're all phoenixes in our own way. We crash, we go down. When we hit rock bottom, we come back up, and we just, in some ways, we burst into flames, and we do the best that we can. So I'm gonna read those three pieces, and I'll push us into the water chapter, and I think we're almost done. Phoenix release. Didn't have much growing up. Thrift shops, hand-me-downs, dumpster dives. Mother emigrated here for a better life. Father with a dark past, mulatto grandparent, middle class, first baby, then brother. Tough shit. Stand up. Slow down, speed up. Impact to the forehead, breaking my skull in 3 places. My aunt saved me. Astral projections into darkness where I couldn't see what was right in front of me. Next time I woke up, I saw a spoon of cereal coming at me. I saw the sadness in my mother's eyes. I remember going back to sleep. Rolling up on a vending machine, aunties pushing my wheelchair. I'm blacking out. Flashes of light, no recollection, just a mirror reflection of bruises under eyelids. As a child, 8-year-old little me said, "That's not me." I couldn't recognize me. How many times have I stood in the mirror and said that to myself? Put the mask up on the shelf just for a moment. Seeing the past that I've lived through, respect for the fact that I am alive. I just won't die. I will forever remind you. I am present, and yes, I am still here. Phoenix Reborn. The embers burned as she rose from ashes, more powerful now than ever before. Unlimited strength, shining brighter than 1,000 stars. Scarlet and gold. Her plumage flowed, she soared across the sky in celebration of her rebirth. And the final piece of the triptych is called Phoenix Rising. This one tells the story of, we go through the ups and downs of life, and there's always some kind of silver lining, there's always some kind of light that brings you from the place that you think is like the end all be all, the end of it all, and you make it to the other side. Phoenix Rising. Each and every wave that goes in and out along the shoreline of this chapter of my life has nearly reached its end. Once upon a dark, long night, the captain said unto his men, their ship had sailed into stormy seas. But he could not tell them what he'd seen. No, he couldn't say a word. He couldn't budge an inch. Death was in their wake. Death was all he saw. The deck had grown cold. The silence had spread. The looks on their faces caused stress and dread. It was obvious they knew. But the fire hadn't gone out. There was still hope left, that they would live to see another day. The captain stood strong, firm like the tides inside. The water that surrounded wouldn't scare them. They could only go up. They'd ride the wave. The phoenix, bright in the night sky, guided their way. And we are going to jump into the water chapter. So the water chapter is very near and dear to me. The whole book is very near and dear to me, but the water chapter is something else because I worked on this book for like 2.5 years. I'm still like, we're like kind of at like we're almost to like the finish line. But in a way, like I felt like this is my kid. This is something like I started it from scratch. I changed all the diapers. I fed it with more poems, more words, more art, and so it was getting to the point where, you know, when I do publish and it's out there and I'm ready to like really share this fully with the world, just know that in some aspects this is my kid and this is a part of me, and these are the most intimate parts of myself that I'm finally ready to just share and ready to like have them stand for themselves. So we're going to start from the water chapter with Oshun. And Oshun, she actually has an adjoining illustration in the book called Golden Afternoon. And I don't know if you see it. So this is our sunflower. I don't know if you guys on Facebook can see it, but this is our sunflower here. You go to Facebook world.
See it? Can I see it?
Sure.
Hold on. Thank you.
Oshun, you've got me shining. Sunflowers blooming, curves look delicious, elevated, tapped into tune. Solar plexus gold, reflected, canopies of forest gardens. Okzum danced in the river. Played on the shoreline, Osun glistened under sunlight, kissed by the earth around her. Oshun leads me to water. I wash the soles of my feet. I place the psalms in the palms of my empty hands and cradle them in the belly of her river. The water reaches my waist and engulfs me. I drink from her river, and she anoints me with her waters. Ochun surrounds me with her love. I become one with her, sunshine refracting off of landscapes that follow, curves and bends to the lake that is hers. Thank you.
Very nice.
So one thing that I learned when I was working on the Oshun piece, you'll find, or a lot of people who study spirituality, that they have a lot of the same deities and a lot of the same gods and goddesses, but they all use different names. So in this poem alone, I managed to find, when I was doing research, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different names that she goes by from different cultures. So these are from people who are from Brazil. These are from people who practice where they're in Africa, people who practice in America even, and also just a lot of different cultures. And it just goes to show that we might believe in different things, but in some aspects they're all kind of the same in some way. Oh, this is a good one. This is dedicated to the chapter Water in Itself. So, yeah, I didn't, Richard, I don't know if you want to see this one. So this is the water chapter. It's my baby.
Yeah, it's upside down. It's
Yeah.
the baby upside down.
So
right?
it's a fetus in the womb.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the moon.
Could you turn it? No. Yeah,
Better?
that's good.
This is too beautiful.
I when I do get to the point, I'm gonna like, I really want to have these up on canvas. I want to have them on display. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'll bring it closer just in case you can't. So this is our fetus here. So you can see on this side if you're there.
Every pregnant lady is like, wow, how come my ultrasounds don't look like Can we commission you? Yeah, we should commission you to do ultrasounds.
This is a good one. So this is called Womb 1. I've always wanted to have a kid. I was one of those girls like way back in the day. I'm like, this is the name that I want for my kid when I have it. And I've planned like this is gonna be a girl, but you never know. So this is called Womb 1. You have been my child for as long as I could remember. I dreamt of you because you were something I could hold. I spoke of you as if you would soon exist. You were so close to me. I believed you really exist. And someday you would. You'd be cradled in my arms, and one day I'd be cradled in yours. You are brave and courageous. You are polite and honest. You are industrious and inspired. You are my flower child. I thought of you on summer days when I would see other little children at play. I would coo and pray that this little one running one day would be you. My little one that I have yet to meet. I imagine you swimming in the river, splashing in the currents, a beautiful and iridescent, undying, cascading the waves with an energy I cannot describe. I know my heart loves you so much. It always has. And when the time is right, your soul will brighten the darkness that has never known light. Oh, and I gotta do this one. So Mega, she actually, when we were working on Nature Walk together, I asked her if she wouldn't mind reading this piece for me, and she did such an amazing job with it.
Oh, thank you.
So it's funny because now when I read this piece, I can't like hear my own voice, I hear yours. So this is called Chamomile. In this life, or the next, I'd wait for you with chamomile tea, sweet with honey to sweeten our love. So many good ones. No, I can't give away this whole chapter. I can't. I just can't. But what I will do, I will drop us into the Earth chapter. So this is Alelogap. He is a water spirit, and he is supposed to protect all those who step foot into his waters. And that, whether that's a shower, washing your hands, going into the river, going into the ocean, and in some aspects, he's the male version of Ocean. Alelogap. Water spirit sailing through waters like a scaly sea dragon as he shimmers from sunlight's refraction. Elevated through waves, exalted by living waters, praised by flowing rivers, running deep within the celestial ocean. He governs the rain, the springs, the lakes, and the streams. His wise words carry far through the rivers and throughout the seas. Undines swim around river bends, playing in water, curving like silk scarves, designed like stained glass. Impressions of sea foam, wishing stones, and peacock feathers, drenched after sun showers. Tossing pebbles along the shore that pass between my toes. I dip my body into your fluid ecosystem, becoming one with your earth. And our last chapter for the book is the Earth chapter. So I think I want to start with this one, the start of the chapter. This is called Evolution. My head has been buried like an ostrich in the sand. I don't want to see the darkness. I don't want to speak its name. I don't want to hear what's been said or who's to blame. I have emerged from earth, soil encrusted around my hip bones, lining the soft ridges of my flesh, soils falling from me. and I can see the sky now. There aren't any feathers left. They've molted from me. My terracotta smooth skin emerging from the cocoon, I shed from the curves of my chin to my shoulder blades, my old shell cracking around my chest as I stretched and shook until I was no longer encased in the sticky placenta. And thank you again for being here. I'm so happy to see you. This is the science of happiness. I thought it was only right that so this book actually has a dedication to my father, a dedication to my mother, and this piece has a little bit, the best of both worlds. Science of happiness. Happiness was designed deep within chromosomes, bonded together to form a spiral staircase of intricate traits. From the mother, her strength and heart of gold. From the father, his smile and steady stride. The fetus grew like a flower blossoming in the spring, pollinated through the wind, with bees buzzing by very jazzily, growing under the sun's light, fertilized by earth's soil, thirst quenched by sun shower rain. Infant. Happiness was spun of threads of being silly. Child. Having an imagination, creating and crafting, exploring and exaggerating, trekking through trivial goals like school and textbooks, and heavy and drowning, absorbed on autopilot. Adolescent. Running and laughing, still holding on to moments from the past, discovering artist pigments, weaving stories through poetic storytelling, slicing tenderloins like silk, spread over chunkily diced garlic, onions bathed in oils and basil, learning to cook. Adult, mixing and swishing and sweeping and cleaning and subtracting lines and verbs of written poetry, cubism colors all at once. A collage of art spores all spilled on the floor. Gratitude, in these words, expressions of love. And I've been waiting to read this one for a while. I'm grateful that the crowd is so, like the way it is, because this is a deep one. This is Journey to Galaxia, Ode to Kali. So when I started spiraling, because we all have our moments when we do, I started to do research on Kali, who is, in some aspects, she is the goddess of destruction, and I wanted to kind of like get myself back where I needed to be. And this poem both came out, it was this poem in itself, and then there is an adjoining canvas that I painted, which is my representation of Kali making her way to the city of crystals. So she's got like her enemy, the head of her enemy in her hand, she's got a sword, she's got a conch shell and a torch, and this is the poetic version of it. Journey to Galaxia, Ode to Kali. Imagine that you spent 3.5 years of your life devoted to someone who didn't care an inch about you, although they said they did. Cheated 3 times, he said. 3 times 3, return my time to me. Called her 4 times, he said. 3 times 3, truth be told to me. Imagine being called out of your name for the sake of shame, being flipped over on your backside while he was tearing into the hide of someone else. I was silent for 3 years in fear of being on my own, but I think you know that. Both you and I will die here. We come into this earth alone, and it is how we return home. Imagine growing with someone who told you multifaceted lies by luck and by choice you were willfully blind. He put you to shame, years of stern standing ovations when his lips had kissed you and then another. They had also touched another without shame. Just as they had warned you, just as they had said he couldn't be trusted, he's always looking over his shoulder, lurking, hiding, contemplating the wrong move. Until time had expired. When you had decided to let him go, they said that they were happy for you, that they were sad to see you endure such pain, although you yourself, too, had been to blame, for giving into your guilty pleasures. Why would you want to be with someone who is known for obvious infidelities, to ever put his hands on you again, to take the fact that you never came first, a pure example of why this would never work, to why the pain and the hurt just all weren't worth it? 3 times 3, I released all my fear, thinking he could come and go as he pleased, thinking it was okay for him to cross the thresholds of your sacred place, to fill the empty void in your space, only for him to rip away the dark matter, holding back the black hole barely kept closed. Imagine being ignored for days, wondering how mental health wasn't such a big issue. Remember, not eating for days at a time. Remember being warped in work and wrapped to help the mind, to press on longer, to find a sense of purity at the end of the line. I was wrong, and I see that now. Just a joke in the eyes of someone who had only ever been conditioned to inflict hurt. Imagine losing blood and sweat and tears, 3 years of being devoted to someone who deserved less than a glass of water with lemon. Instead, making him drink the last glass left behind by someone else, making sure to spit in it, making sure that he can taste the tears from your eyes. Perhaps it will taste like water. Perhaps it will turn his stomach. Perhaps he too can feel agony. And at a glance, I would like to believe that love that was held between you and me was enough to bring us to shore in the midst of an ocean of sadness. My heart had been a raft that would not hold him as the hurricane winds pushed him out to sea, and there, my love for him would drown. Every ounce of oxygen that had been there would be consumed by H2O, even as he swam towards the end of my world. Imagine yourself hollow for laying once in a bed that is not yours. Remember nights of solitude in your own bedroom with locked windows and closed doors. Imagine being told time and time again that his love was true and that your love mattered tremendously. Tremendous loss, so mote it be for the phoenix safe recovery. Remember nights when you cried yourself to sleep, only to be woken the next morning with tears dried in the corner of your eyes. For what? For love, he says. So he can silence you. So he can dangle the word above your head as if it was gifted to the dead, a token of imitation that one could not quite see as clearly as before, simply blinding by illusions cast until the illusion was no more. He kept you waiting up late at night for days and hours and nights. The train was delayed in the station and you stayed standing on the platform for the train that never came. I was a houseplant, sitting alone on glowing windowsills, drooping heavily because he prevented my leaves from growing anymore. In thinking of it now, it's a shame how much time devoted to someone who could have not survived on a raft in my ocean, swift change of motion. At a glance, I could see that he was just as similar to the last man that he claimed not to be. He didn't wear the same hat or shoes. He didn't tie his laces in the same way. But there was something inside of me that knew. There was an inkling of truth beyond eyes so dark that I knew he couldn't and he wouldn't tell the truth. All truth is revealed. Having done nothing for 3 years, no job, no money, 3 times 3, he slept with her, same old story, this shit is getting old, 3 times 3, I will set myself free. I remember walking through a dark forest, held back by mud and the dirt. I lost my shoes, I fell and I was hurt, my knees scraped and bruised, my heart broken in pieces. I remember walking through sorrow and anguish as I made my way up the mountainside in the hope for some clarity. I nearly fell to my death off a cliff on the mountain of love, and no one would have found me. I hiked for miles to find that the only heart who had been in mine was my own. I measured my loss against the weight of my knapsack. Inside I carried a canteen of water to quench my thirst, a shield for protection, a sharpened steel sword to sever the bondage of ignorance and ego, a torch to lighten the darkness on my path, and the bloodied head of my enemy as a reminder of my hurt. The oldest stories sang of Hope Springs, eternal, on the other side of nowhere, in a distant place nowhere near here. I heard of a city of crystals that could glow in the dark, and only those who would traverse for miles would find Galaxia in time. This was the journey of a lifetime. This was an opportunity to travel to a continent unheard of to man. This is my greatest achievement. This is a representation of my greatest sorrow. The Depression era of yesterday and yesteryear. As we look at the future on borrowed time, I look forward to waking up tomorrow because my heart will have traveled 1,000,000 miles and you were too blind to see it. In due time, I will heal. In due time, what is due will become real. And when that time comes, I will no longer shed these tears. And then I'm actually going to wrap this up and do the last piece from the book. And this is called Intermission. And I chose to call it Intermission because my story isn't over, even though it's the end of the book. And I kind of, I really love the fact that we're in an atrium right now because intermission is representational of, you remember Charlie and the Chocolate Factory where he's in the elevator at the end of the movie? Mm-hmm. And how it breaks through the glass ceiling? This is my way of breaking through the glass ceiling. Mm-hmm. Intermission. Ding! Floating to the rhythm the elevator sings, 'cause we make elevator music. We jive from the ground level, taking it one floor at a time, picking up and dropping off people that have come and gone. Now on floor number 5. Ironically, this is 6. This is the next time the transformation between you, me, and the elevator baby. Breaking the glass ceiling, moving higher and higher until the only one left standing in your way is your reflection and the polished metal frame. Thank you.
Everyone give it up for Crystal Davis again. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that work with us and for being so vulnerable and so open. I guess Crystal's gonna decompress for a second and pass the mic to some of the amazing poets that we have here today with us. But if you are interested in learning more about elemental emotions, do not stray too far from your computer if you're watching digitally, because we will be doing a little Q&A with Crystal in a few moments. But first, I do want to welcome some poets to the stage. And I'm very excited because I feel like we've got a great group. I think I'll just do it in the order that y'all came. So I'm going to have our first poet come up. I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up the Eventbrite to get your full name, but, well, you can say your full name when you get up here. Please welcome to the stage, Maya! Oh, 7 minutes.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone on Facebook. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. My name is Maya Catherine. I am an author of the book An Apology to My Demons. And I've been a, poet since I was a kid. I guess I'm coming back into that now, being inspired by all the poets around me. But for now, I'm an author. I'm a writer, and I'm really happy to be here. I actually ended up writing a poem for today, and I'll be reading a little excerpt from my book as well. My poem is called Am I a Writer? When my eyes are filled with tears, my throat blocked by grievances I have not expressed, and all I can do is let my pen trace words I'm afraid to say out loud. Am I a writer? I don't know. You tell me. When terms I use are a cover for screams I can't let out, paragraphs formed by shattered pieces of a broken heart, and all I can do is let my hands follow lines on a paper. Am I a writer? I don't know. You tell me. When we sing and shout and rhyme and write and make music which gives voice to the voiceless, which liberates hidden feelings too dark to associate with, pain too hard to explain, anger too intense to let out, despair too strong to talk about. Are we writers, singers, poets, or musicians? I don't know. You tell me. But wait, what about the timid notes of hope hidden in plain sight throughout these chapters? Throughout your verses, your albums, your stanzas? What about the loud and valiant calls to dare and dream and laugh and dance in our songs, our books, our music? Oh yes, it's true. We don't only speak of pain. You see, when we sing and shout and rhyme and write and make music about coming back from emotional death, gluing together pieces of shattered hearts, getting back up, disappointment after disappointment. When Maya Angelou says, I rise, I still rise, we are spokespeople for hope and love and life and courage. And when, in the dark of the night, we beat our drums softly, paired with a sensual voice, in a small cafe most don't notice, our art gives pleasure, an intellectual orgasm, an ecstasy, and bliss. Yes, indeed. We are emotions personified, accidental healers, really just trying to heal ourselves. We are the heart explaining why it didn't trust for a while, but will never stop believing in love. We are the mind saying it didn't see the betrayal coming, but will create wisdom from our wounds. We are the gut saying trust yourself and trust the universe. We are the lungs saying just breathe. So when I write about apologizing to my inner demons for not healing them sooner, when I write about not understanding that many of my toxic habits were created out of self-preservation instincts to protect me from repeating situations that cause me pain. When I do that, am I a writer? I don't know. You tell me. When I write about a phoenix rising from the inside to take me from rock bottom to the mountain top, am I a writer? I don't know. You tell me. And when I write about finally remembering who I am, the strong and sweet and smart and delicious goddess I was born to be, am I a writer? Am I an artist? Are you? I don't know. You tell me. Thank you.
You are a writer.
Thank you so much. And I'll just read a little passage from my book.
Where can we get the book?
It's on Amazon. It's called An Apology to My Demons. And it's also at the Little Boho Bookshop in Bayonne. It's called An Apology to My Demons. I'm just going to read. So the chapters are all labeled child and based on pain I experienced in my youth. So you have the ugly child for when I was called ugly. You have the betrayed child. You have the unprotected child. And the last chapter is called the healed adult. And people always ask me why. But it's actually a demon. And I'm going to explain why. When she, and this is in the third person, but it's based on my story. When she bought the car to Michael that day, he quickly figured that one of her rear axles needed to be replaced. That was not what she wanted to hear. She had just bought the car and was promised all worked well. I got sold a lemon, she complained. No, said Michael, her mechanic. You bought an old car with problems that may have started with the previous owner, but it's your car now. It is your problem now. No matter who did what before, it is in your responsibility to either fix it or get another one. But you can't go back and blame the past. You have the keys. It is your car now. And if you, either you take responsibility to get it back or get rid of it. Once again, Michael left her perplexed, wondering if he was talking about the car or her life. What was his point? Now the car is mine, I can't keep looking for people to blame, and I have to take responsibility for myself, even if the problem is not my fault? The answer is yes, child. And Michael was indeed talking about your life. You know it. The answer was yes about the car, and the answer was yes about her life. For years, she relied on excuses to justify her unproductive and negative actions, reactions. Everything bad she said, she blamed on triggers, fears, demons, and skeletons. The reasons were her story, like Tony Robbins said. We all have stories or a story. I'm like this because, I'm like that because. But we forget at one point we all become adults and get the keys to the car of the house. And to that point, it becomes our problem. No boogeyman to blame anymore, no fault to assign. No, just the realization that it is on us to fix us. And that realization is not easy. The healed adult is a demon, she thought? Yes, it was. It is. It too is rooted in fear. Fear of being responsible for all her action, reaction, behaviors. Indeed, the healed adult was the wounded child who would have to take responsibility for her anger, explosion, bulimia, cutting, addiction, codependency, and other issues. It would be the child who would have to fix what others broke. And it wasn't fair, she felt. Why do I have to fix something I didn't break? Isn't that giving a pass to those who hurt me? It's not fair. But it's your car now, my girl. It is your car, your heart, your soul, your body. It is yours. Therefore, it is your responsibility, my love. Life is not about fairness sometimes. It is about making a decision to live fully, happily, peacefully. It's about forgiving others, not for their sakes, but for your own inner peace. It's about seeking legal and moral justice when you can do it safely, but also letting go when you can't. It's about fixing the house after you bought it because it's yours now. It's your life, my child. Take ownership and run with it. If I'm no longer a victim, who am I? Who are you? Who are you, little girl? Who are you without your story? Who are you without your emotional wounds? Who will you be once you heal your pain? Wait a minute, a life with no pain? That couldn't be possible. Pain was her destiny, her karma, her luck, her deal, her thing, her identity. What do you mean a life without pain? I think I should stop now, or can I go? I don't know.
I think it's been 10 minutes, but is there how?
That's fine.
No, is there more? Like,
yeah, there's
like
just,
how much more? Is there
just a little more. You know what? I just read this little paragraph. I don't want to be a victim forever. I refuse. I'm tired of all the chaos and demons and fears and drinking and throwing up and crashing and everything. I'm tired of all of it. In that instant, her heart smiled because it knew its little girl was finally on her way back.